Tonight we have the privilege of hearing from Matt, KA0BOJ, Matt Anderson, who is the Section Manager for Nebraska. Matt is working on his 4th term, not consecutive, as the Section Manager. He's been a ham for 36 years and is an extra class ham. And he's going to be speaking on topics of interest to Nebraska and Omaha ham radio operators. So welcome, Matt.
It's good to be here. I do have a nice history actually with the Aksarben Club. I took my general class test here through the Aksarben Club, passed many years ago, and have been a member kind of off and on. It is nice to see a great showing tonight on a very cold January evening when a lot of us could be kind of tucked away at home. It was nice for everybody to come out tonight. A couple of things I'd like to do here. First of all, 2015, January, I think we've all made our New Year's resolutions, and how many have already broken some? I know that I have. But I think probably the best thing that we can do for ourselves in amateur radio is to make sure that we stay active. And the bands are so important to us. Because without the frequencies and bands that we have available to us, we don't have amateur radio, and thus we don't have the great group of guys and gals that we have here this evening, and to be able to enjoy those frequencies. Matter of fact, on the way up here, I worked. I've been doing a lot of HF modeling as of late. Got an ICOM 7000, so it's just barefoot 100 watts, a little Tar Heel 2, magnetically mounted on my truck. And I worked a guy in El Salvador, YS1/HB9KNA, who was down there on vacation. So the guys from Sweden come on down to, or Sweden or Switzerland, I guess I have to look it up. But HB9 should be one of those two. Anyway, so he's down there until the middle of February. So he brought ham radio along with him. And just, what a great time to be a ham radio operator. You know, because of the technology that we have today, you can get an HF radio the size of this footprint right here with 100 watts. It has all the bands, you know, 160 through 440, and all you need is a power supply and the antenna or antennas of your choice, and you're on the air and you can talk to the world. When I first got started back in, 36 years ago, so it'd be 36 would be 37 years, because in 1978 is when I first got licensed. I mean, my first rig was an HW16, built that, Heath kit. What a blast that was with my dad and I, crystal control, and it was a pretty good size, and it was the thrill of making something like that. I think for those of us who have been around long enough to remember Heath kit, remember the store up here at 90th and Maple, yes.
Used to work there.
Oh, did you? Very good. I used to pop in there every time I had a few moments and go in there and drool over the latest piece of equipment that they had, and then of course, unfortunately, they've kind of gone by the wayside. But that type of experience with ham radios was really stuck with me. And then I got a Yaesu, an FT101EE. I got that for my 16th birthday. A lot of kids get cars. I got an HF transceiver, which was really nice. Little did I realize that my dad was very crafty. He says the best thing to do is to hide things in plain sight. And I actually had my feet up on the box that it was on underneath the table where I operated for 6 months. Never questioned my dad, And so anyway, some great memories there. And internet radio. Steve's working, a little Raspberry Pi there you're working on?
Raspberry Pi that, with the right software, you can turn it into a spectrum analyzer.
Yep. So what a great time that we live in. So before I get going here too far, I do want to take a look here. This last year, we've had a number of hams that have passed on, and I think it's the best thing that we can do to honor them is to speak of them, about the things that they've done with the club, speak their name, speak their call sign. there was a little thing that I was kind of cruising around trying to find something that was appropriate. And so if you'll just indulge me, just a real short thing. It says, in memory of silent keys, it says, my chair is sitting empty, my call's no longer heard, my radio rests quietly, from it comes no words. On my shack door is a message that reads from me to thee. My frequency is much higher now. I've become a silent key. And so think about those people that have gone on before us, people that have enjoyed the hobby, and the great times and relationships that we've had with people. Now, what I'd like to do is I'm going to make a point this year of recognizing some people within each organization. Now, this by no means means that the other people are not important. But one of the things that I do is I try to pick out a few people that have either in the past been instrumental in an organization or helped being in a leadership position, like maybe as a past president. Having been president of our club a couple of times, I know that sometimes is a thankless job. Sometimes as the section manager, that can be, I won't say thankless, but it is trying at times. I didn't realize all the little problems that were involved in the section, and it seems like those little ones take up the largest amount of my time. And I really would like to thank Bill for getting me involved in this all those years ago. He told me it was just going to be a piece of cake. There was going to be no problem at all. Good car salesman.
Yeah, I didn't have to pay you either.
No. So I know that Tomas is not here this evening, but I know he was the past president a couple of years ago, and I just wanted to be able to recognize him. So Adam, if you can make sure that he gets this here. Got a nice little hat for him with his call sign on it, and just a certificate of merit for Thomas, NW7 US, in recognition for your outstanding service to the amateur radio community. And so this is something for him there. And then this other person I've known for a long time, and she has been instrumental in your club in many different facets. And as of late, she really took on the role of working with Allmers and helping to put that together and be an instrumental part of that, making sure that equipment and so forth was put in the right place. And she was just one of many people that helped out with that. And so I would like to recognize Mary, N0TRK, if you'd please come up here.
President of Amateur Radio.
Yes. I actually have video proof of that.
Do you? Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And we'll have that reflective there too. It can be seen at night.
This will be the mirror of my other hat that's bright yellow.
There you go. We got it right. Yes, we did.
KPTM many years ago, '95 when I was president for the first time.
Yes.
Field day, the hockey had been on strike, and they were finishing up the Stanley Cup, and that delayed the start of Star Trek on KPTM. A lot of people had their VCR set to record Star Trek, but instead they got KPTM's Evening News, which they came out and did a really nice piece on field day, and underneath, when they're interviewing me, it says, Mary Joseph, amateur radio president. Never been revoked.
Never been revoked. Emeritus.
So, La Presidenta.
El Presidente.
For life.
For life. Is that how it works, Pat?
Yeah.
President, just say yes.
Oh, yeah.
Of course. It's like normal, Pat, just say yes.
All right, and just a little trivial pursuit here. This is nothing difficult. Oh, well, I do have one other one here. And this is actually for the entire club. You guys, through field day, through the fact that you have your classes, and just listening to the different committees that are all involved, anywhere from, the repeater to, with youth and with community outreach, working on the websites, Facebook and stuff. This is all important to be able to get the the word of amateur radio out. And so on behalf for the club, the Aksarben Radio Club, in recognition for outstanding service to the amateur radio community in 2014. So Adam, if you want to come up here and accept this, please. I want to thank you very much. Groups like you make my job a lot easier. Thank you. All right, I got a couple of hats here. All right, like I say, just got to throw up your hand here, and this is not difficult. So, last year marked the 100th anniversary of the ARRL. What publication marks this 100th anniversary this year? Got to throw up your hand.
QST.
QST, there we go.
Oh, Steve, you got a hat.
All right. What is the name and call sign of the current section manager?
KA0BOJ.
There you go. I told you it wasn't difficult. Come up here, young lady, you can get this for you.
Go get it. That's why you have your hands working through those things.
Trick question.
Go on.
I told you it wasn't hard.
We're going.
It is hard. All right. This one might actually be, we'll see. Mary may know this one. How many lookups on QRZ.com has K0USA had? I just need a general number. I don't need exactly. How much?
57.
I say 8,965.
2.
Nope, not yet.
10,483.
Nope, we got two more guesses.
1,771,000.
That's just a tad high.
Oh, that's the number of triples.
6,100.
3,000?
6,761.
I was so close.
Pretty close.
Way to go up.
All right.
Everybody go look at
6,198.
99.
That number's not live.
All right. So anyway, a little bit of fun there, recognition for everybody. First of all, if you need to congratulate yourselves, you guys are a great organization with a rich history, and you are to be commended. A lot of events coming up. Field Day, which is really our signature event. It's so important for us to get out and to participate, and making sure there's local news media and so forth. You guys have a public information officer?
No, we have a pimp.
Public information media person.
You have a pimp. I'm sure the league, we can change that. So you do have somebody that gets out there and
He's just volunteer. He's got us out on the corner.
that's great. It's so important to be able to have that great relationship with the news media. On several points. One is, you never know when the next disaster is going to happen, or the next event in which amateur radio becomes involved, and we need to have a person locally that can step in and speak on behalf, on our behalf. And so that's why it's important to have that relationship, to be able to have those people on your phone, not just in numbers, but so they also know you. So it's just not a matter of calling them up, once or twice a year. It's, dropping them a line a couple of times a month, hey, how you doing? And, just some little things will make a big difference, Giving them a hat that says, something about ham radio or radioactive, or just some little fun little thing, like some little prizes and stuff that we give here. You'd be amazed at the little things like that. Something like that would get them to scratch their heads. But the relationship that we need to have with media is so important. And today's social media is so powerful. It's amazing where you can walk into a business today, and if you're happy with the service, you can get onto it. There's a number of different apps and stuff that they have out there, and you can immediately tell people you're happy. But conversely, if you're not happy with an experience, lousy food, it was too hot, too cold, lousy service, whatever, it can be out there in an instant. And to be able to put a positive spin on the amateur radio, I think, is really important. So being able to utilize the social media to our advantage. We do have a section page, or a Nebraska section does have a page out there. I don't know if you knew that or not. If it's in Nebraska, ARRL. So just going to do a little search engine there, and Lonnie, Rick, my SEC, maintains that Facebook page for us. He does a real good job of keeping things up to date. He does a much better job than the section manager does on maintaining the section manager webpage. That is something that I'm going to hopefully be getting somebody else within my organization to take care of, because it's a fair amount of work. I think, as Mary will probably attest to, keeping a webpage up and current is a lot of work, even when it's very simple. So some people ask, so what is amateur radio? So what do you tell them? Somebody asked me, what is ham radio? What's this all about? It's that CV thing, right? And everybody get that? So somebody asks you, says, what is ham radio? What might you tell them? No wrong answers out here. I'm just not trying to put anybody on the spot, but just throw some things out
I
there.
tell them it's CB radio on steroids.
There we go, somebody, yeah,
Hobby radio.
okay, Bobby,
Fun. The original social media.
there you go. Absolutely. And you really hit on that, because kids today, there's a whole generation, or two actually out there now, that have not known the internet. The internet's always been there. For us old timers, everybody can remember dial-up, AOL, with the three, with the guys on there, the dial-up, and then you made the connection, and, if you had 28.8, man, you were really rocking. But you're right. It is the original social media. What a great way to be able to get on the air and talk with somebody halfway around the world with nothing else in between you, and being able to talk with somebody. And the kids today, they whip out their phone and get on Facebook or Instant Messenger, and they can be talking with somebody halfway around the world. But what happens when the internet goes down? What happens when they don't have any electricity, their phones don't work and stuff?
That can happen.
It has. I've heard about that.
In Korea.
So this is, that I think the thing you mentioned about fun, it is fun. We embrace technology. As a matter of fact, a lot of the technological advances that we enjoy today, of course, amateur radio's played a part in. Or we've taken a technology that started and we have helped to expand upon that and to make it much more viable, worked out a lot of the kinks, found out different applications for it, and getting people to understand how they can incorporate, like, the internet with amateur radio, or social media with amateur radio, and being able to talk with the International Space Station. I mean, how cool is that? Or to use satellites to be able to bounce a signal up and off of that, or shoot a signal to the moon and back. I mean, things that you can do with a modest station. I mean, it's really amazing. You don't have to have tens of thousands of dollars invested into a station to be able to talk with somebody around the world. Put it in your vehicle and talk with somebody in El Salvador as you're driving, to a meeting. So why do we do it? I think for the very same reasons that you say what it is. It's fun. It's the original social media. It's a challenge. To me, it's the wonder and the challenge of not knowing who I'm going to talk to. When you throw out a CQ, you never know who's going to come back. Or if you're listening to somebody that you really want to talk to, maybe somebody on a desert island, or maybe it's in Russia or Svalbard or England, and being able to have that connection and to be able to talk with them. There's a certain personal satisfaction of knowing that you made that connection without anything else in between you other than atmosphere. I mean, it just, that sense of wonderment and amazement, I guess, is the part that has never gone away from me. And I think sometimes people get too wound up in things in general to be able to enjoy that. So just on that, why, I'm just going to kind of randomly point, and then when did you get an amateur radio, first of all, and then why did you? So if you remember when you got into it, approximately what year, and then why did you get an amateur radio?
I'm new, I don't know.
He's told me a nice story. Tell
Well-
them. I mean, he doesn't bite any more than I do.
Oh, well, I off-road a lot and
Okay.
just the accessibility to get for help or provide help or,
Okay, sure, we're good.
Our cell phones don't work.
yeah, or
No more
cell phones don't work.
How long you been a ham?
I'm not. This is the first meeting.
Okay, well, you got a great group here.
Yeah.
You got a great group. It's a lot of fun. That's a great reason too. Being able to offer help, you know, a lot of local frequencies, 2 meter, 440. We got a great repeater system here in this end of the state, actually throughout the state. That guy right there helps coordinate it. And we got quality repeaters. I've been around the country a lot, and we have a real good network here. And so that's an excellent way to get into it. Public service, being able to gather help when you need it, and just the enjoyment of being able to talk locally with other people, maybe has the same interests as you. I think you'd be surprised at how many people will share your interests of the particular hobby that you have. Pat?
I've had my license since '86, but I always had it interested in electronics and radio. Used to play with walkie-talkies when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know, and my friend and I, we'd actually put the antenna of the old Micronta silver Radio Shack antennas, you know. We'd put the antenna up to a ground cable going up the pole, and then we could talk probably for a mile with those little things, and that was kind of fun to experiment with.
Yes.
Things like that. We listened to WWV on this shortwave radio that I had, and we tune around and listen for different things, and so, yeah, '86 is when I got my license, and so since then I've done a lot of stuff. And you know what's so fun? We had a setup back when Frequency came out, the movie.
Mm-hmm.
We had a big display at a theater out west in West Omaha to show people what we do. And so many people, when we were talking to Japan, we had a little loop antenna on the roof of the theater with coax coming down into the lobby. And somebody heard us talk to Japan, and they thought we were using the internet or using a satellite somewhere. I said, no, that's from my antenna to his antenna. That's 1-to-1. We're not using anything between us. And when people think, oh, I could talk to Scotland over the internet, I said, how many computers do you have to go through? How much power, how much electricity do you need to talk to that person? Me, I just need my little radio.
Yeah.
That's all.
A little power supply or a battery.
Yeah, it's a very energy efficient way to communicate.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful hobby. Yes, sir.
Okay, I got into ham radio from Citizen Band.
Okay.
I was a Boy Scout master, and we took what is called a high adventure, a long trip away from the city with the boys, and it was a lot of fun, but when we came back, we kind of had a little critique, critique, and we all decided that it would have been a whole lot better trip up and trip back if we would have had two-way radios. So a few months after that, my assistant scoutmaster called me up and said, when are you going to get a CB? So I got somebody to talk to. So, okay, went out, bought a CB, and the next time we went up, it was a whole lot better trip with the two-way radios. We were able to get 11 miles on the 23-channel radios from one car to another.
Not bad.
7 miles? Yeah, 7 miles on the 23-channel radio. And shortly thereafter, my dad found an old CB radio base station sitting in one of the houses that he owned, and the renter had moved out and left this behind. I got it fixed up. I wasn't good enough to fix it myself, but I got it fixed up, and I had so much fun with it, I decided I was going to go to electronics school and learn about it. So I went to Radio Engineering Institute, and at Radio Engineering Institute, well, I was just a brand new ham, or a brand new student, excuse me. An instructor came out who was a ham radio operator, and he had a little TR-2200 or Drake TR-22, I guess it was.
Yeah.
And he sat down at our table and he lifted his antenna up, and I thought, well, this is going to be cute. He's going to talk to somebody else in the building, and of course this is not going to do anything compared to my mighty 23-channel CB, because half of that thing's got to be batteries and stuff. And so he gets on the radio and he makes a call. Of course, I had only the vaguest recognition of or knowledge of repeaters. I knew Business Band had them. And like I say, I didn't know this guy was a ham anyway. But he gets on his little radio with his little antenna, and he says, "This is WB0CMC. Anybody on the repeater, please respond." And WB0CM, this guy comes back on the other side of Offutt Air Force Base, and my jaw drops about down to the table. You know, the other side of Offutt Air Force Base, we were at a school on approximately 30th and Dodge. At the time, we had WR0ABQ3494 was a split site repeater. It had a 25 watt transmitter or 20 watt transmitter at the old Red Cross building on 40th and Dewey, and the receiver was up on top of Woodman Tower, connected by a dedicated telephone line. So basically, we were sitting in between the two parts of the repeater, and he was using a 2 meter, like I said, 2200, Drake 2200. And of course, this just amazed me and blew me away, that because half that stupid little thing had to be batteries. I mean, you know, how much power is he going to get out of that? And to go all the way to the other side of Offutt was really amazing. So after that, I started practicing. After the classes were over, I was staying around with John, and I learned and you know, studied and studied and studied. The hardest part was, of course, the Morse code. You know, that's, you know, the best instructor in the world. You know, he can teach you the theory, but you have to practice that Morse code. I had a lot of trouble with it, but I did achieve on my first test technician class license, and I've been licensed since 1976.
Okay, very good. So, I mean, there's a prime example right there of you have somebody that already has experience with CB radio, already has an interest, and most people I think have CB radios, and we see a lot of guys running around with CB radios still today. We know that they have an interest in communication. We just have to upgrade them. And when you get somebody who's your Elmer, somebody who decided to bring a radio to class one day and pull it out, just kind of see, you know, test the waters a little bit, see who was interested, and then being able to take somebody and Elmer them and help them to get their license. That is really the epitome of what amateur radio does and what we're here for, you know. So, yeah, John?
Matt, I don't know if you are aware, but Douglas County REACT got their ham licenses, and they have 2 repeaters here in town now.
I did not know that. Well, very good. So, even REACT.
Are they 440?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that's fantastic. And other organizations like that, we know, working with REACT, I know there always used to be a little bit of the territory, a little bit of the headbutting that we used to have, but I think, you know, is getting to work with organizations like that, because they have a great resource, and they got a lot of people out there, and the more that we can get the REACT folks to you know, to get their ham radio license, it just helps us in the long run. You know, whether it winds up being a disaster or a net or something.
Yeah, incidentally, they're not going to be in the repeater directory this year because they didn't send their annual update form back. And I think there's one down in Gretna or someplace, Ashland or something, that didn't either.
Really?
Yes.
Still coordinated though, right? Still coordinated.
This ain't the repeater directory. You didn't get one, did you?
Well, you know, doing that little saving ink thing. One more back in the corner there. That would be you.
I was fascinated with Morse code.
Okay.
And I learned it in Cub Scouts in the 50s, but didn't actually get my license until 82.
Okay.
And I was novice for several years, and then I went to tech in general.
All right. And just a quick show of hands, who all uses CW?
I don't operate
Very
that.
good. A little over half. Okay, that's really good. Great mode. And matter of fact, the ARRL has found out, you know, so through some of their questionnaires, there's an actual increase in CW activity since they have dropped off the requirement, because it's no longer a stumbling block. It is something that people want to learn, and it's amazing when you don't have to learn something, you know, and become something that you want to learn, but not because you have to, I think the
That
learning-
was the
learning
original
paradigm.
digital mode too.
Yeah, exactly. Very much the original digital mode.
And it's musical.
It is. There's some great YouTube videos out there. Gosh, I wish you just go to YouTube and just type in, like, there's a guy that does drumming in Morse code. Oh, wow, it's amazing. Does this whole musical piece.
Well, good too.
So anyway, the condition of the section. We have about 4,000 hams. We really stick within about plus or minus 100 year in, year out. So we're like 4,089, I think, right now, the last thing that we had. About 25% of those are probably active, I would say. And about 20%, a little over 800 people are actually ARRL members. And so the one thing I guess I want to emphasize, you know, because the ARRL is our mouthpiece for us. They're the folks that are the buffer between the commercial interest groups that really want our frequencies, and trust me, they want them, especially the higher frequencies with use of cell phones. I mean, I think they said that there was every person on the planet darn near has a cell phone or has at least 2 or 3. It's incredible the amount of technology that people have on their hip, and they don't just have one, they have multiple. You know, it's this, they have the iPad, they've got another phone or some kind of digital device that requires spectrum. Most people don't realize that these things take up radio spectrum. They're not like the phone that we have hanging on the wall. Of course, we know this takes radio spectrum, and for the most part, they do a pretty decent job with it, you know, especially with digital technology, and we're able to cram a lot more into a little space. But even with digital technology, there's X amount of space, and you can only cram so much in there before the pot starts boiling over. So it's important. So how do we protect ourselves? Well, one is activity. When we're on the bands and we're participating, whether it's a rag chew or it's a contest or whether we're doing something for a public service event, those are all important because there are folks out there, trust me, that are listening to the bands that we have, and they are monitoring, much like what Bill does, you know, to check to make sure we don't have guys that are, you know, mouthing off and doing bad things. We got guys on there, they're monitoring the amount of activity, and they're making reports and kind of coming back to Congress and saying, hey, these guys here, I mean, they're not using this. That's why we lost part of 220 way back when. We don't need to lose any more spectrum. Now, obviously, as things change, we will change to go along with that, but it's important for us, all of us, to do our part. So local 2-meter repeaters, 440 repeaters, those are very important. Getting on the HF bands is also very important. They were just pointing out, you know, earlier, you've got the few folks out there that, you know, use and abuse. It's important for us to, when we hear that kind of thing, the reason we have OOs is that they have the wherewithal to be able to take that information and forward it on to the league and on to the FCC to be able to take corrective action. It's important for us not to get physically involved with that. I think the last couple of years we've had, there was a couple of grain companies that I think, and farming outfits, I think in southwest Iowa, that kind of the area there, that have got some 2-meter equipment that they've been using, and it's on a seasonal basis. I think they're kind of getting that narrowed down, and maybe there'll be some action taken with that. But it's important for us, you know, self-policing, very important. So when you hear something that's out of the ordinary, the best thing you can do is monitor, write the information down, record it if you can, and then get it on to Bill. And then Bill can take it from there. And then if I need to get involved at my level, then the ARRL will contact me. Typically, I usually don't have to deal with that too much because that becomes an administrative and an enforcement type issue. What do we want to do? I think you guys are already doing it. Getting out there, getting involved with the public, getting into schools. I think would be a huge thing. STEM technology, everybody says STEM or STEAM, you know, science, technology, engineering, and math. There's, I think STEAM is now, they're including art into that. But we have a lot of STEM-based projects. We have a lot of STEM-based curriculum that's available through the league. So if you have a school or you have a teacher at your school that is interested in that, you can direct them to the ARRO website. If not, put them in contact with me, and I'll have them, somebody from the league, get in contact with them to be able to get them the information that they need and to get you guys involved locally to be able to help step in there and be able to facilitate that. What a great way to expose kids to amateur radio. I know when I worked out at the museum, the STEM program out there is just phenomenal, and being able to incorporate amateur radio into that, I mean, what a natural fit that we have, because we cover everything. We cover the science, the technology, the engineering, the mathematics. We do that every day. And not only is it fun, but it also can be a career builder for people, just as this gentleman right here talked about, you know, how he got involved and then worked in the electronics industry. So not only can it be a fun thing, but it also can be a career builder. I learned long ago that the mind will only absorb what the seat can stand. There was an old ham one day. He was on this really nice sunny beach, and he was just got done working a bunch of QSOs, been working a pilot. He got out and he was walking along the beach. He comes across this, looks like an old rusty can. Got digging out and pulled it up, and it's a lamp. So he takes a towel he's got with him and he starts rubbing on the lamp like that, and the lamp goes poof. Out pops this genie. And the genie goes, "Master," he says, "your wish is my command. You have one wish. What would you like?"
$1 million.
So he goes, he sits there and thinks, he says, "Well, you know, Genie," he says, "I live in a restricted housing area. I have these CCRs and covenants." He says, "I'd like to have a 500-foot tower with all the antennas I could ever dream of onto there, and nobody's going to care." And the Genie goes, he says, that's a pretty tall order." He goes, he says, that might almost be too difficult." He says, "Do you have another wish?" And he's thinking about this, and he goes, pulls out his logbook. He carries the logbook. Flips on through there, and he says, "You see this guy right here? This call sign? Yeah, WB0 CMC. So I'm going to try to get a QSL card from this guy for years." And the Genie looks at it, and he looks at the guy and goes, "So on that 500-foot tower, you want that to be galvanized?"